This is gonna be a long one, since I've never managed to really put the whole story together clearly until now. This happened in a relatively small town/city in Canada in April of 2016, just before I graduated high school. I was around 17 at the time. It was my grad year, and most of the people in my grad class were partying, planning activities to celebrate our upcoming graduation. One of the traditions in my town is to play a grad game called Rambo, which is basically a version of Predator-Prey. A bunch of people would meet up at a specific location on one side of the city, and the goal was for the runners to make it to a spot on the other side of the city without getting caught by the seekers, which were groups of 3 to 4 in their cars. Runners also went in groups of 3 to 4, but they had to be on foot. My grad class was around 200 people, and I would say this particular night there were about 60 to 70 people playing. This takes place after it's completely dark outside. I think it was about 11 p.m. at night. I had planned to be a runner in a group of 4 with my boyfriend at the time, as well as my friend and her boyfriend. However, my now ex bailed at the last minute to go do drugs at a different party with his friends, which left me as a weird third wheel with my friend and her man. No problem, right? I never should have gone. Now, for reference, I'm pretty tiny. Like, I'm 4'11" and weighed around 80 pounds at the time. I genuinely look like I'm around 13 if I don't wear makeup, and you don't get a good look at me. Anyway, my friend and I got all dressed up in black and put war paint on our cheeks. The 3 of us headed to the spot. I live in what I've always considered to be a very safe town, mostly full of families and retired people. There are only a few bad-ish neighborhoods in the city. The game started and we all ran. It was all fun and games until about an hour in, and around midnight, we had to cross through one of said neighborhoods. While we were walking along a residential street sidewalk, one of the seeker cars came ripping down the street and the 3 of us ran. Of course, my friend and her man stayed together, and I got separated somehow in the scuffle. Once the seekers weren't in the immediate area, I started calling out to my friends. I could hear their voices somewhere far off in the distance. I texted my friend. She said they were in an alley on the other side of the houses, while I was still on the sidewalk out front. I had 2 options. I could walk to the end of the block and find the alley that way, but I was about 20 houses away in either direction, and I knew for a fact that there were seekers nearby who had seen us and knew we were in the area. My other option was to cut through someone's yard and immediately be in the alley and reunite with my group. I chose the latter. Why I did this, I'll never know. Like I said, I am a tiny little girl, and this was known to be a fairly rough neighborhood. I looked at the nearest houses and spotted one that didn't have a front gate. His lawn went straight into the backyard, save for a few shrubs on the side of the house. I thought this might mean I could just go straight through, and there wouldn't be a back fence either. I chose this house, and stepped over the shrubs and jogged towards the back. As I did, a motion light came on that illuminated the backyard. This scared me, but I was already in, so I figured I should just get out as fast as possible. When the light came on, however, I noticed that there was, in fact, a fence, and about a 6 to 7 foot tall one at that. I certainly couldn't jump it, but there was a gate with a latch that I ran to. I remember having to stand on my tippy toes to even reach it. While fumbling with this latch, I heard a noise. It was the sound of the back door of the house opening. The houses in this area were quite small, and often dilapidated. I would say that the back door was only around 15 feet away from the fence. It had some concrete stairs with wrought iron railings. I remember turning my head towards the noise, and having around 1 second to see this giant bald man in his stained white briefs charging at me from his door. He was 6'5" and well over 300 pounds. He hit me like a freight train. He slammed into me so that I hit the fence hard. I think he came at me with his hands neck height, but I can't remember for sure. What I do remember vividly, though, was how he picked me up, my full body weight by my neck. I remember trying to shriek, and hearing my own voice barely choking out a sound. He immediately started towards the door he came from. As he dragged me towards his house, I remember being sure that something horrific was going to happen to me, and that I was going to die. I remember his hairy, sweaty body absorbing my kicks and attempts to hit him. I was screaming the whole time, but with his hands around my neck, it was an unescapable, silencing death trap. Right in front of his steps, my iPhone flew out of my hoodie pocket and hit the concrete, reminding me of its existence altogether, but now it was sitting on the ground as he hauled me up the stairs. I don't know how I mustered the strength, but that wrought iron railing gave me something to finally leverage myself against. I managed to pull away from his grasp using that fence, just long enough to grab my phone. His hand slipped off my neck but caught my hoodie's neckline, which tore down to my sternum. I was wearing another shirt underneath. This hoodie is still the grim reminder of this day. For some reason, I just can't throw it away. He immediately caught me again, but in my mind, I was for sure going to die if I didn't have my phone to somehow call for help or something. Being out of his grasp allowed for another thing. I could scream. I knew my friends were somewhere in that back alley, and I screamed bloody murder at the top of my lungs once I could. He caught me again and dragged me into his house. I vaguely remember him trying to cover my mouth or grab my throat again, but I'm not sure. Upon entering his house, I saw where he was taking me. The steps into his pitch-black basement were only about 4 feet from his back door, and he was headed straight for it. I was certain I was going to be dragged into his rape dungeon, and no one would ever see me again. The freak had 1 foot down the stairs when he heard it. Before his back door fully shut, there came a sound from the outside that saved my life. It was my friend calling my name. They heard me screaming, and were very close to the yard I was in, so naturally they started freaking out and calling my name. This guy heard them. He froze in his tracks, eyes fixed out the back door now. He realized I wasn't alone. All at once he let go of me and stepped out in front of the door, blocking my escape back through it. But then he started asking me all sorts of questions like he was in a frenzy. Why were you in my yard? You were stealing and vandalizing, weren't you? I was pretty messed up, but started trying to explain the game we were playing, referring heavily to the fact that I was with a group of friends and just trying to cut through his yard. It was now that I got a good look at him, completely naked aside from some stained, sacky white briefs. After about 30 seconds, my friends called my phone. I've never picked up a call so fast. I immediately started yelling at her that I'm in someone's house and he's trying to kidnap me, what the house looked like, etc. I stayed away from him and stayed on the phone with my friend, all the while he was screaming at me that he was performing a civilian's arrest for vandalizing his property. He repeatedly threatened to call the police, to which I said please do every time. The police would get me out of his house real fast. He never did call them, but he made me write my name on a piece of paper, which I did because I just wanted him to let me go. He kept me in his house seemingly trying to figure out what to do, until around 2 minutes later there was violent banging on his front door. My friends had found his house, and were just going to town on his door. Then he finally let me go out the back. I promptly threw up on his front lawn from nerves as soon as I was reunited with my friends, my gift to him. Okay, so this happened about an hour and a half ago. My first language is not English, and my heart is still racing, so sorry if something doesn't make sense. I know it's a little too long, but I have to put in the context as well. If someone here is Mexican, you know for sure that it's usual to have a concrete wall between your house and the street. At least protection in your windows, like bars or something. Well, I live in an old street, so we don't have a wall or protection for the windows. Mainly because on the street where I live, everyone knows each other very well. The kind of streets where old people know each other's names and surnames. My room is right on a corner, so I have 2 windows. One of them face a big tree. Once a year, the town hall has all the branches of the trees cut, but while that happens, sometimes they come a bit through my window. Tonight, I was almost asleep when I started to hear little scratches. So little that at first I thought it was just a weird, funny noise, but then it began to get louder and louder, and after a moment of silence after that, I realized it was not just a little random tree branch scratching, or an animal, or a bug. Someone was trying to open the mosquito net. The scary thing is that the mosquito net was closed, but my window was open. But the most scary thing was when I realized that there was no way that this person couldn't see me. My room is small, and I sleep with a lamp, so it wasn't dark for me to not see. My heart was beating like crazy, and I stopped my breath. I tried to calm myself, talking myself through what I'll have to do. I was turning my back to the window, so I started to move as if I was just waking up, but in that moment, the sound began to get louder and more desperate. At this point, I was crying in silence, biting my lip trying not to make any sound, and taking all the courage I had to stretch like I was waking up and start to sit on the bed. In that moment, the sound stopped. The most difficult part was turning slowly to the window, trying to look sleepy. But with my vision in the sheets, closing the window as if I didn't have any idea what was happening, the only thing I could see when I looked out were two squeezing hands holding the branch very hard, as if trying to hold on. When I saw that, my stomach contracted, and I felt like throwing up. I looked at the hour in my phone and stood up, taking my time to put on my shoes and walk slowly with disinterest, yawning until I left my room. Once I entered the bathroom and locked the door, I let my body fall to my knees and started crying and shaking. I wasn't able to breathe. I did call the police right away, though. Almost 2 hours had passed by that point, and they still had not arrived. I called a friend who had keys to my house instead. I didn't leave the bathroom for any moment, and I never stood up either. My friend helped me to wash my face, and helped to calm me down as well. We were sure that the police were not going to come now, so for now I'm going to his house. I don't want to be alone. It gives me too much anxiety to think what would have happened if I had stood up abruptly, if I had defended myself, screamed, spoken to, or called someone. But what scares me the most is the possibility that if I had turned around and met the man's gaze, and he realized that he was discovered, he would have no doubt broken the mosquito net instead. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for reading this. It's a way to release some of the stress of the situation. This happened years ago, when I had gotten my first actual job, not just babysitting or working in a family friend's restaurant and keeping my tips. I didn't really think much of it. I figured it would be harmless. I could find people around the country to chat with, and learn about some other cultures while I did it. You know, all that kind of good stuff. I wouldn't give out personal information about myself. No phone number, address, any of that. I wasn't stupid. I made a simple profile, stated what kind of friends I was interested in making. Just the basic sort of stuff. Well, after about a month, I received a message from a man. I don't remember it quite word for word, but it basically said this. "Hi, I found your profile and I'm super interested in being friends." He then stated that he lived in the same state as me, though I know maybe it was rude to be snobby about someone in my state contacting me. I did politely say on my profile that I was trying to make pen pals outside of the US. I responded politely, though. I replied to a few of his messages for a while as well. I found out that he lived in the same city as me. I see you like anime. I love anime. I also see you've been to Japan, and I have too. Do you go to anime conventions? Maybe we could go together to the next one that comes to town. I began to feel a little uncomfortable. I put right on my page that I have no intention to meet up with anyone, just have an online pen pal. I politely told him that right away, but he didn't like that very much. I just thought we could be friends, since we share similar interests. Again, I politely told him I was not interested in meeting anyone in person from the website. He pretended to be fine with it, and went right back to rambling about his interests. I logged out of the website for a few days, and just focused a bit on my personal life, going to work and doing schoolwork, taking care of my disabled father as well. One day, though, I woke up to notifications on multiple of my instant messenger apps, all basically stating the same thing. "Hey, it's me, from the pen pal website." He messaged me on 4 different chat apps, which I did not give him. Just how had he found them? I was really annoyed. As politely as I could, I messaged him on the pen pal website. "Hey, so I don't know how you found my IDs for these chat apps, but that was kind of over the line. That wasn't really appropriate. Not 1 app, but 4. I'm sorry, I really wanted to talk to you, and you haven't been on the website for a few days." That doesn't make it okay. I have a personal life and a job and family. I can't just spend all my time on here. Well, hey, that's why I messaged you on those apps. I don't have them listed on my profile. How the hell did you even find them? He immediately avoided the subject. I'm sorry I did that. I was just trying to be your friend. I just want to be friends with you, that's all. Look, this isn't the way to do it. I'm very uncomfortable that you somehow found out that information. I didn't give it to you, so I don't think we should talk anymore. I don't really want to be friends with you. Sorry. Please don't contact me again. I immediately blocked him on all of those apps and on the pen pal website as well. For a few months after, everything was fine, until suddenly, I got a message on one of those apps, and the user wasn't in my friends list. The message was basically as follows. You fat ugly bitch. No one will ever love you. You'll never find a man to love you. You're so fucking fat and ugly. Why don't you just kill yourself? Do the world a favor. I rolled my eyes and blocked the account right away. Throughout the course of the year, every few months or so, across multiple different social media platforms, I began to be harassed. I had completely forgotten about the man, though, until I received a message on the pen pal website. The account had no name or photos. It was a random username as well. The message I received was the same nonsense as before, just calling me fat, ugly, saying I'm a bitch, telling me I should die. Once I got a message on that website, I knew it had to be him. I had no other issues with anyone that I knew of. I replied, saying that guy's name, telling him I knew it was him, and that his behavior was really sad and pathetic. I just wanted to be your friend, you bitch. You better watch your back. Then the account blocked me. For a few more months, nothing really happened. I would get one or two messages from fake accounts every now and then, but I had grown so used to it that I just immediately blocked them. Then one day, though, I received a Facebook message from a police officer. He was contacting me about a profile I'd apparently made on a website called Ashley Madison, used for people to have affairs. I had never heard of it before then, and I absolutely did not have an account there. I had a very long talk with him, where he told me his department investigates human trafficking, and thought I was an underage girl possibly in danger. It had my personal Facebook account listed on the profile, as well as other various ways to contact me. I was in shock. He advised me to contact the website, and asked them to take down the profile, but said to me, "You seem like a sweet girl. I don't know who you pissed off, but just don't read the profile." Well, my curiosity got the better of me, but I really should have taken his advice. Using some of my normal selfies, an account was made, and the profile stated many horrible things, very derogatory. It made me sick to my stomach to read some of the things it said I apparently wanted to have done to me. Thankfully, the website took quick action to take down the profile. The next time I got one of those hate messages online, I snapped. I didn't hold back, cursing him out for being so immature and disgusting, just because someone simply didn't want to be his friend. The account blocked me without answering. I didn't get a message from any others for a while. One day, when I was the closer at work, I was waiting outside for a family member to pick me up. I didn't have my own vehicle, and my family would give me rides to and from work at the time. As I was listening to music, waving goodbye to my manager as they drove off, I got a notification on one of my apps. "You ugly bitch," I sighed, rolling my eyes as I opened the message. As I was typing, though, another message came in that made me stop typing and freeze up. "You're all alone now. I could kill you right now if I wanted to. No one would ever find you." I backed up against the building. I didn't have keys. Only the manager did, and they'd just left. I looked through the parking lot. Not a car in sight. The streetlights shined dimly around me. My heart started to race as more messages came in. "You're so fucking ugly, you know that? No one will ever fall in love with you. Your family won't even miss you. I should just kill you right now." I started to cry, phone shaking in my hands. Just as another text came in, a car pulled up in front of me. Luckily, it was my family member arriving to pick me up. I took a deep breath and quickly hopped into the car. "Sorry I'm late. I got stuck at 2 red lights. Your manager already left and just left you all alone out here? Just drive." I accidentally screamed at them, tears streaming down my face. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" I was crying, shaking. They took my phone and looked at it, seeing the messages. What the fuck? Who the hell is this texting you? We went back to their place and they wanted to call the police, but I told them not to. I had no idea who they were or where to find them to make a police report against them. Instead, they called another family member who works in the IT field. After they heard the whole story, everything I've endured for almost 2 years, they told me I should have made new accounts from the beginning of this harassment. I listened to them, and right then and there, I made new accounts for all of my social media. I worked at that job for another month, but my family member had told the manager what happened, so I was never put on closing shift again. I was only given morning shifts, where I clocked out of work when the sun was still out, but I still didn't feel safe. They knew where I worked. My manager completely understood when I quit. After that, though, all the harassment stopped. To this day, I still have not received any more threatening messages. Now I'm married. I still live in this city, but I don't live in that same neighborhood anymore. I feel comfortable, and I don't feel afraid this person will find and stalk me again. But even now, anytime I get a random message from someone who isn't in my friends list, my heart races for just a second.